What's going on, squad? It's your man Unspoken Reviews back again with another video, and today we are doing another episode of Batman the Caped Crusader, episode 4, Night of Hunters. Alright guys, so this episode did not really feel so much more like a Batman episode as it did an episode highlighting some of the corruption and some of the bad politics that are going on in Gotham City and as well as in the police station. And it didn't seem so much as more about the Batman as it did the villains and the people that he's going to be dealing with. It also gave us some relationship drama between some characters, as well as some relationships budding between some of the officers as well as the community towards Batman. And I thought that was pretty interesting. It kind of picks up on the events of episode 3 and the fallout of the things that happened at the end of that episode. All right, guys. So you guys remember after the end of episode 3, there were some pictures that were taken of Batman beating up Flash and Bullock, knowing that they were trying to kill Catwoman. Batman did intervene in order to save her life. However, pictures were taken of him doing this. Batman was okay with it happening, but it has caused a lot of backlash in the community of people and their view towards Batman. Everyone seems to have different opinions of him. Some people see him as a hero who's out there trying to stop the cops. Some people think he's a vampire. Some people think that he's dangerous and needs to be taken off the streets. And some people just refuse to go out at night now because of the drama that is unfolding around the city, whether or not that's due to Batman, the criminals, or the police. Now, at that, we do have the mayor who is, I didn't even look up the mayor's name. Shit. So we do have Mayor Jessup, who is now kind of milking the damage that was done with Batman taking down the criminals. And it seems that they have become a bit of a laughing stock to the community. And Mayor Jessup decides that he's going to put together a task force to stop the Batman. And he decides to put Gordon in charge of that task force. We see that he's giving Gordon a hard time about that. He seems to be coming down on him quite harshly and telling him that he better not screw it up. And you can kind of see exactly how Gordon is treated. Some people would try to say this was kind of a racial thing or a political racial thing that you can see in the show. But this is something that Gordon has dealt with being a police officer. He has always been looked at as the straight arrow. And even though he tries to give out these positive vibes to make his officers better, he's often dealt with a lot of the corruption and the way people see him as being such a good guy, but not getting the job done effectively. People would look at this and probably think because he's a black man being talked like this by a white guy, that's not exactly it. I have seen Gordon treated like this in the Gotham TV show. I've seen him treated like this in the Batman animated shows and the movies and, any kind of, even in the video games, you see that this is how he's treated, but he's always been a good cop and he doesn't seem to want to change that. So to that end, he puts Renee Montoya in charge of the task force. Now, Bullock and Flash are not happy about this. They don't like the idea that they have to take orders from her. They don't believe that she should be leading it. However, due to their pictures being in the paper the way they were, being beaten by the Batman the way they were, it doesn't really put them in a position to look strong like leaders should in this situation. So Renee is leading the charge and, she seems to really be trying to put everyone on the same page. They have taken up different pieces of information about the Batman, how he moves, when he moves, who he goes after. And in order to catch him, Renee comes up with the idea to set up mock scenarios of crimes that take place across the city. Now, 3 of these don't work. Batman is seen in the shadows watching these things unfold. They'll sometimes have someone throw someone down or pretend to mug someone. And 3 of these things do not seem to work. It seems that there are different types of decoys, don't seem to get his attention. But after one guy actually unsheathes a knife to make it look like he's going to cut the guy, Batman jumps in and he captures the 2 officers, hanging them upside down from a light pole. Now, these plans don't work. So Renee comes up with another idea to simulate a car chase. And we have 2 officers driving a car and shooting blanks at police officers. Batman does not know this and he uses the Batmobile to try to take them down. Now, at first, they're trying to catch him using that and it doesn't seem to work. However, they do try to catch Batman, and as they're chasing him down, he's able to elude them. And I like the idea that Batman is not tricked by them trying to simulate this. It's a pretty cool thing when they're trying to capture him the way they are. They're trying to cordon him off from getting away. However, Batman is not fooled. We all know this. He even knows when they're going to back down. It's like these little things I do like about Batman. He's able to read human nature well enough that even when he's doing something like driving up towards someone, he knows they're going to move. He knows they're not going to stand there. It's a pretty awesome thing. And he manages to elude them. It's because of things getting in the paper. There has been that same reporter has been going around taking pictures of the situation and taking pictures of their failures. And this does get the attention of Mayor Jessup, who is increasingly pissed off, but it also gives Dent an opportunity to kind of push his campaign forward. We see him talking to a bunch of reporters, and you can just see he's still using that sly BS attitude of his to maneuver his way into becoming mayor of Gotham City. We know he's already corrupt, even though his argument is valid with the way the mayor is spending taxpayer money to catch the Batman and the way they're failing to do so. You can still kind of see that he's milking the failures that are going on instead of actually trying to promote change or actually make it better from what we see. So another thing that I did like, as Jessup is coming down on Gordon, we do see that Gordon is still trying to be that good cop and affect change. He does realize if the task force does fail, he more than likely will be pushed out and Renee will be put back into position of, air quotes, coffee girl for the police station. And it just kind of shows that Gordon really does want to change the way things are going in Gotham City. You could tell he doesn't like the way officers are moving in the city, and he really does want to change that and root out the bad cops, but he's just getting a lot of pushback. So Renee does come up with another idea to outsmart the Batman in a different manner. So she enlists the help of Dr. Harley Quinzel. That's right. Harley Quinn herself is back. She hasn't become Harley Quinn just yet. She's still Dr. Quinzel, but she starts to ask the police the question of what inspires Batman, what pushes Batman, who are the type of people that he goes after in order to feel like his actions are necessary. And she comes up with the idea that in order to catch the Batman the right way, they need to try to go to the extremes of creating weird personalities or giving an extreme type of villain or bad guy for him to go after that matches his ability to become necessary on the streets. So Flash gets the idea to release the Firefly. That's right. He goes after Garfield Lynns, that's down in lockup alongside with Bullock, and they decide to free him. Now, Firefly's got a very interesting story in the comics. It's two different types of comics. And now in the beginning stories, he's somewhat of a special effects guy, but he also has some skill in pyrotechnics, but he kind of works just as a down and out special effects guy who ends up coming in contact with Batman and Robin on a few occasions. But after the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they switch up his story and they make him a little bit more of like the crazy pyrotechnics guy, you know, who likes to use fire and likes to use it against his enemies and likes to burn things down around him. Now, we have gotten Firefly in different types of versions throughout the DC universe. We've gotten him in video games, in Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight as a side mission character. We've gotten him in Batman Bad Blood and films. We even got him in Arrow for a period of time. If you guys ever watched, I think it was season 1 of Arrow, after, you know, Oliver has been beaten by the Dark Hood or the other Hood character that he faces off against, he loses his confidence and he ends up taking down Garfield Lynns in that episode as Firefly. This Firefly is a little different. He actually kind of he's not as different with his abilities, but I didn't like the name that he pushes. He says it's actually Firebug. They say, all right, Firefly, it's time to release you. And he says it's actually Firebug. And they're just kind of like, okay, I guess. It kind of seemed like he picked out this lame name for himself, but it seemed like somebody else wanted a better name for him. But it's all right for what it is. So they do take his suit out of lockup and they put it in the trunk, put him in the car, and they get ready to drive away. But Barbara ends up catching them and talks to them about it. However, Flash lies to her and tells her they were supposed to be moving him from one facility to the other. I think they were taking him to a different facility. That's what they lied to Barbara about. Now, Barbara doesn't believe this, and she ends up going to talk to Gordon. And we do see that there is some type of relationship that is going on possibly between Renee and Dr. Quinzel. I wasn't exactly mad about that in the times wherein we had to know that there was a possibility they were going to kind of sneak this type of thing in sooner or later. It didn't exactly take it away out of the episode for me, but I kind of wish that it wasn't pushed like that. And you kind of know it's like one of those same-sex relationships. I'm all good with those. I just hate when they try to take two characters and push them. I think Renee Montoya was already a character that was into women, and I know Dr. Harley Quinzel has already shown that she's been into girls, I think with Poison Ivy and other relationships. It just kind of felt like it was something that was pushed together from two characters that I didn't ever see together. I've always ever seen these characters with other people, but not with each other. Now, I don't know if I'm wrong about that. If you guys know about that somewhere in comics and you've seen it before, let me know, but I don't think I've ever seen it. Barbara does tell Gordon that they released Firefly and they let him out and they took him out. And Gordon admits that he never authorized anything like that. I actually like this part where Flash is actually flipping the lighter. And there's this moment where Garfield looks at the fire, and because at first the lighter is not lighting, it's just, he's just flicking it. When the flame comes on, you can see the change that goes on in Garfield Lynn's eyes and the way he talks about the fire. And he's like, feel it. All the flames are reaching out for all these people. And it was just kind of creepy to see the way the fire affects him like that, where he's, taken with it. So the cops start baiting him by talking amongst each other, talking about, hey, did you grab his suit? Yeah, the lock on the trunk is busted. Hey, did you hear something's wrong with the car? Hey, let me get out and check it. So they both get out of the car, but Flash leaves the lighter on the dashboard, and Lynn's not thinking about it, completely goes for it. He takes the lighter, he jumps out the car, takes the suit, and he disappears somewhere in the city. And Flash and Bullock fake a beating to make it look like he popped their tires and knocked them out. So after he gets away, he gets into his suit, and as Gordon and Renee are looking for him, he kind of goes, after he puts his suit on. Now Gordon and Renee are both trying to find them and figure out where they're at. But by this time, Linz has already gotten his full suit on. And I liked another thing that we did with Linz is that he kind of stands out and he's looking out into the East End neighborhood and he's looking at all the people and the building. And as he puts his goggles on, like everything turns into flames. You can see how he sees everything on fire. And I thought that was pretty interesting for Linz. Like the way that he sees the world is that he imagines all these things on fire as if that is how they should be. It's not so much that there is something wrong with him. To him, he feels like there's something wrong with the world and he needs to use the flames to change it and put it the way it is supposed to be. Even when the kids are running around, he sees them as little fires, and it's really creepy the way that he views the world like that. It's like he can't see it unless he has the goggles on, which I thought was really, really interesting for his character. So he does get some chemicals together and he starts burning down, the East End. And Gordon realizes that with the way that the city is built, it's going to burn down very fast. So he tries to hurry up and get there and tell the police officers not to do anything, but nobody's really listening to his orders. Both Bullock and Flash are ignoring his orders and decide to take an armored team in, who, after Batman sees what's going on across the street, tries to get involved and tries to stop whoever is burning down the building. So it kind of turns into this 2v1 fight where it's the police officer and Firefly trying to take out the Batman and trying to stop him. Firefly is pretty much on his own burning down the building, but the officers are kind of getting in Batman's way as he's trying to track him down. It's a pretty interesting thing. He does manage to catch up with him at least once, and a fight does ensue between the two of them. But when the police officers get involved, it breaks up the fight and Linz gets away for that point in time. Now, Gordon and Renee both do show up and they decide to go into the building, but Gordon tells everybody else to stay back because he doesn't want anyone else dying or anyone else getting hurt. So he decides to just go in with Renee and try to save the other officers as well as Flash and Bullock and get them out of the building, as well as any other people that are left behind. And is still searching for Linz. He does take the time to help civilians get out of the building while also trying to take out the police officers that are getting in his way as he's doing this. So it was pretty cool seeing Batman trying to micromanage everything, and he's doing it well and effectively, and he seems to be doing it better than the police are. The police officers are more focused on just catching the Batman or shooting the Batman more than they are actually helping the people. And it shows the corruption with the police unit even more. Now, I do understand that there are some officers that have a job, others have another duty, but I just kind of felt like when you're seeing the officers go after somebody instead of worrying about the people that are in danger, it really highlights the problems that are going on in this police station. Does manage to run out of fuel after burning down the building, and it's pretty ominous just watching him standing there at the window, and he's staring down at the world the way he is. And I know that it's not really part of Lynn's story, but when you're looking at Lynn through that window, you kind of almost see him like a scared boy who's kind of reliving something. He's looking at the fire trucks pull up, and there was kind of like this vulnerable moment where I felt bad for him for a second. It was like he was seeing something or reliving something that he lived through as a child that really traumatized him. I don't know, maybe I was wrong, but it was the way I saw him standing in the mirror. Flash and Bullock do corner him, and you know, Firefly does give up. He says, hey, look, you know, I'm out of fuel, so I give up. He puts up his hands and he surrenders. But Flash makes a note and says, you know, we've released him. He will tell somebody. And both Bullock and Flash shoot him dead out the window, and he crashes down in front of the rest of the community that's watching the fire. They do get the pictures of his body and everything. And they also get a picture of Bullock, who's in the window with his gun drawn, showing that he was the one that took down the Firefly. Now, Gordon does manage to corner Batman, but Batman is trying to save a bunch of kids. He has 2 kids in his hands, and there is a third that's still hiding underneath a table. They do manage to find a way out via a laundry chute that goes into the basement of the building, and they do use that to get out. Batman does disappear before Gordon can say anything to him. You know, one of the reporters does come up, ask Gordon, was the Batman in there? And Gordon does lie and say, no, I didn't see him in there. And it kind of shows that their relationship might be budding a little bit. It might show Gordon that Batman is a good individual, even though everyone views him as bad or sees his tactics as brutal or different, and he's a vigilante. He's not a heartless monster. Even though people see Batman as this dark, you know, cut off individual, after being an individual who lost his family to violence, he makes it his responsibility to make sure nobody ever feels that way. And I like that Gordon is able to pick up on that and see what the Batman is truly about. Gordon does reprimand both Flash and Bullock for their actions, but the 2 of them are very cocky. They don't seem worried at all. As a matter of fact, show him a picture of the paper that they're being held as heroes for taking down the Firefly. And it doesn't help that Mayor Jessup does end up calling and puts the 2 of them in charge of the task force of taking down the Batman, as well as saying Renee can stay, and that because Gordon saved those 3 kids, he's also allowed to stay, and that he should just stay out of Bullock and Flash's way and give them anything that they ask for. And it was just kind of a very crooked moment where 2 people decided to bypass the rules of what they were supposed to do, violated every law, and still managed to go scot-free. And you can see that on Gordon's face that he's pissed off, but there's nothing that he can do about it. And we have a moment where we see just him and Renee sitting at the bar, pissed off, and Barbara comes to join them. And she tries to comfort Gordon, but Gordon's just like, hey, don't worry about me. I'm not done yet. And that was the end of the episode. So the episode wasn't bad to me. It just didn't feel like it was about the Batman. Now, that's okay because it's kind of a few episodes in the series, so you have plenty of time to flesh out that character. It seems like in the last episode, we got more of an in-depth look at his past. And it seems like this episode was just about the community and the police station and the politics surrounding the Batman and the type of people that the Batman does attract in him doing what he does and the kind of people that he has put himself in a position to take down. And I thought that that was okay. I just didn't like the fact that Garfield Lynns was kind of become the villain of the week. I know that that's something that they did in Arrow, where he was just the villain of the week who came to fulfill a certain purpose, and then he died, and then that was it. And it felt like this was the same way with this Firefly. You know, he came in as a character who was just there to fill in some gaps. He did that, he died, and then they move on. And that was kind of sucky for the character. I hate that. Firefly is a very deranged character, but he's also very interesting. I think he has like scars on 90% of his body from being burned, at least in some versions he does. And I just kind of felt like it was just a waste of the character. I felt like they could have kept him around just a little bit longer to maybe become a villain that he can deal with at a later date. Maybe they might come up with another one. I think there's 2 other different versions of Firefly. I think one of them's name is Ted. I'm not exactly sure. I've always been more familiar with Garfield Lynns than I have than the other 2. But I did still somewhat like the episode. I just didn't like that it was a villain of the week episode. And I also just didn't like that it wasn't all about Batman. And that Batman was kind of committed as a side character. Batman kind of felt like the type of character in this episode. He kind of felt like the type of character who is the secret character that, you know, that you would see in a TV show that would come and do something and then they're gone. You know, I don't know if you guys ever seen it. I've seen it in different types of shows from, you know, Ninja Turtles to Power Rangers. You guys know there's always like that, I'll give you an example. You know how like in Power Rangers, there's always that sixth ranger or that potential sixth ranger. He'll come around and he'll do something and then he's gone for like 4 episodes and he'll come back. That's what it kind of felt like with Batman in this episode. I wasn't exactly mad about it, but was a little frustrating. I guess this episode was just about giving us more an in-depth idea of what goes on in the politics of Gotham City and what people deem as right and wrong and how Batman is viewed in the community. And to some extent, I'm okay with that. I think that's something that should somewhat be done, because sometimes when we watch these TV shows, we don't always get the extent of how the world views these characters, right? We don't always get an idea of these small ways that these characters' actions. We may see Batman doing something amazing and saving lives, but we never quite get to see how other people view that. And I did like that this episode did that. It wasn't the banger episode for me. I definitely would give it like a solid 6 out of 10 if I was on a rating scale, maybe even probably less than that, maybe a 5 out of 10. It wasn't terrible, but it also didn't do anything to move the needle for me. But I'm still going to keep on watching, guys. I still have an episode coming up with Harley Quinzel. I think this is where she's going to switch up and she's going to become one of them costume weirdos. As far as with the pictures for the next episode tell me, I didn't spoil it for myself yet, but based off of what I see, it looks like she's going to have her transformation in that episode. And I got to say, I'm not exactly excited about the budding relationship between Renee and Harley. But you know what? We'll give it a chance to see what it looks like. I think that's probably going to be something they're going to do in the next episode. I don't know if that's going to rifle anyone's feathers, but I'm going to give it a chance and see how I feel after watching the episode. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And once again, I've been Unspoken Reviews, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.